Welcome back to another episode of Don't Be Curt, where today I'm going to talk about, in my opinion, what is the best convertible bar none, most usable convertible, and as you can see, why this particular brand was saved by this particular convertible. So let's begin. So a lot of other YouTubers and other people have covered Porsche's financial struggles in the late 80s, early 90s, where they were building cars or helping Audi with the RS2, helping Mercedes with the 500e, just basically doing consulting gigs or helping build to keep money in the coffers. I guess somewhere along the way they had a prototype of what eventually became the Boxster, and eventually produced this car, with it releasing out in 1998, I believe, in the US markets with the original Boxster. So many people know that as the Boxster 986, and with that became the poor man's Boxster, poor man's Porsche, not a real Porsche, yada yada yada, go on and so forth. But as a lot of people recognize, the 986 shared a lot of parts with the 996 911, which came out directly after it. It introduced the M96 engine, which was their first liquid-cooled engine that went behind the rear seats, whether it be in mid-engine or rear engine form. Introduced the running egg headlights and a couple other design things that weren't up to the spec or choices to a lot of folks. With that, though, everybody knows about the 986, right? We talk about it. It's the entry-level Porsche. It's still a real Porsche. It sounds like a Porsche. But what I'm here to talk about is what I'm sitting inside today, which is the 987.1 Porsche, the Boxster. I consider the one I'm in, which is a 2008 Boxster S, a 987.15, and I say that because there have been some micro revisions within the .1 generation before they did the full refresh with the 987.2. So let's get into it with this car. So let's start with the fun parts about the 987 Boxster, or 987.1 Boxster 2008. Gotta have all the facts right because each year is so different. But anyways, as we all know, the original Boxster in 98 or whatever, it originally debuted with a 2.5 liter flat six engine derived from the M96 engine, which is also shared with the, and a bigger displacement of course, with the 996 911 of that time. As time progressed, Porsche increased displacement up from 2.5 to 2.7 in the base, originally additionally adding an S model in the 986, but when it came to the 987 Boxster, it gets a little weird. So it inherited the M96 engine for the first two-ish years. When the Cayman 97 generation came out, it inherited the M97 engine, which is also shared with parts of the 997 Porsche 911. The Boxster didn't receive that until like a mid-refresh in 2007, where it also received the M97 engine, both in 2.7 liter form and the 3.4 liter form, boosting the S model from 3.2 to 3.4 liter, and also taking it from 260 horsepower in S form to 296. So cool thing about that is, for the people saying it's not a 911, it matches the power output of a 996 base 911 with that 3.4 liter M97 engine. And we'll do a little bit of driving and stuff like that so you can kind of get a feel for it. But first, before you go anywhere, of course, we got to go with the cold start. So here it is. So let's start with the fun stuff, which is the drive. So the 987 Boxster has the goodies that you would normally see in the regular 911, including in the 2008 form, it graduated to the M97 engine, and in this form has the 3.4 liter engine. Now, of course, the 97.2 version, which I don't have, got further enhancements with direct injection, some other enhancements to the M97 engine. But in this form, though, this engine produces roughly 296 horsepower and around 260 foot-pounds of torque. All right, so that's the exhaust. This car is 100% stock. The built-in OEM exhaust, the catalytic converters are the same. This is it. I think it sounds pretty good for factory. Now, of course, different video, different time. I'd love to change it out for like a 5-speed setup, but I have other things in the fire. But about the engine though, so this engine, the M97 engine in this car is derived off the M96. Essentially, this came based off of the 3.8 liters in the 997 generation engine, of course scaled down to 3.4 liters, and it borrows the cylinder heads from it, which then comes with the variable cam plus and valve timing and lift system from that engine. So this car, as we'll see later on, does have quite a voracious kick once you get above 5,000 RPM or so. Now, of course, this engine also has a flaw. Whereas the M96 had IMS bearing issues, this one doesn't have it as much, but it does have one that's a little interesting with a cylinder bore scoring issue. So essentially, from what I understand, and mind you, I experienced this, but I bought this car secondhand, so I wasn't the person doing this. When these cars are only started and ran and not brought to operating temperature, some condensation can form or whatever, and typically when brought to operating temperature, any moisture would burn off. Whereas in this one, it doesn't. And these folks who drive these cars real quick and know like the operating temperature causes the cylinder wall to expand and contract, get scoring marks and stuff like that, and then you get cylinder wall scoring, and it's a big mess. And that's the major flaw of this one, but it's not that high of a percentage rate. Similar to the IMS bearing, a lot of folks will say that's been overblown or whatever, but it's part of the folklore, so I might as well be upfront with what goes on with the engine in a Boxster S. And tangentially also the Cayman S. I mean, they are the same car essentially, although there's a price premium for the Cayman. More on that later. Now, one of the best parts of having a convertible, going back to this part of the argument, is that you get to really enjoy nature and the foliage and stuff like that when you're driving, just being a sense of outdoors. I know motorcyclists, you guys get this, but you know, for folks who don't drive convertibles, that's one of the alluring features of being in a convertible type car. So for those who are a little sophomoric, one of the other parts why I know this car is kind of beefy is you can do fun stuff like this. Sounds great every time. Did all this talking about the M97 engine, but in this particular 2008 Boxster, this is special. Now, in the 97.1 generation of both the Cayman and Boxster, they didn't have the PDK, and it had the 5-speed Tiptronic, even in the S model. So this literally was the transmission of choice. Now, if I was going to do this again and got a 97.2 or any of the 98.1 generations, I probably would lean towards the PDK. Not that the stick shift drive is not fun, it is. Just that PDK transmission is just that special. So, and the greatest thrill in this car, while you can't do too much on public roads, I do it on exits, is that the handling around exits is just immaculate. Like, just amazing. I mean, you can do this over and over and over. I've never felt this car felt even remotely close to losing grip or anything, and it's just fun. And that's just the balanced nature of this car being a mid-engine platform. In fact, I'll put it out here, I like the Cayman and the Boxster better, and I like the 911 chassis. It just feels more planted and just more, it just feels a lot safer when you're going around turns quickly. I don't know, there's something about the 911 that's still a little odd feeling, even in the current form. And a little bit of the straight line acceleration sounds. Again, it just sounds amazing. And it's fun. Did I mention it's fun? It's fun. I mean, for real. So we spoke a little bit about the drivetrain, did a little bit of driving, talked about the handling a bit, but what makes this convertible stand out from other ones? Well, one, 987 Boxster, especially this particular one, 2008 97.15, as I said, I give it the 0.15 due to the engine, is that it has lots of storage. Now, you might be wondering, what's that good for? Well, with a convertible, you might want to go someplace, and I'm going to show you why I think this is really cool in this car. Okay, so let's get into the front of this car. Now, one of the annoying parts of a Boxster, and I guess it would also go with the Cayman, is that these switches are electronic, and if your battery's dead, there's a whole rigmarole to get your trunk open, which is where, or frunk open, which is where the battery is. All right, so to the frunk. So the electronic popper gets you going here, and what you'll get is what I think is a great amount of storage. Now, So yeah, I know there's a whole subwoofer in here. Ignore that. I didn't install it. It was here when I got the car. But outside of that, even what's in here, you can hold 2 of those airport-sized carry-on bags that you put in your overhead compartment in here and have plenty of room, and still be able to travel and have your rear trunk for some space. Also, this is the recommended location to put food. If you ever go grocery shopping, trust me, you don't want to put it in the rear trunk because that is hot as that deal back there, for real. The rear trunk opens the same way with electronic switches, and again, you have quite a bit of space here, and I believe with these cubbies here, and of course I got my things back here, there I believe there's enough room for some golf clubs. I've never tried it, I don't golf much, but I believe they would fit. But even if they don't, if you go golfing by yourself, you got a whole convertible, so just put it in the passenger seat, right? Your golf clubs can stick out. And also, with this car being a grid engine, here's really where you put your oil and your coolant in. We've seen this before. It's the same in the 986 really, same in the Cayman, and that same spot exists in the 2008 987.15 Boxster S. Now the interior point of view. Now Porsche, one of the things I love about this brand is their design language has remained fairly consistent throughout the model. So even if you go in a 986 to the 987 to the 981 to the current 982 generations, you'll see this basic layout. Now of course things have gotten different, whereas here the dash cluster in the 981 going forward has a digital screen here, but it's the same 3 cluster, 3 gauge deal in the dash, with a center console that has, you know, your heating, climate control, and stuff like that. Again, this is nothing really talking about why this car is great, just kind of showing inside what it's like. Now, and one more bit about the interior. It does have cup holders, and it does look flimsy, but it's not that terrible. I mean, like, it'll sit in there and it won't settle, and I've not seen a drink spill yet. Also, keeping in Porsche fashion, you get all the cool stuff like the other Porsches. So left hand, Le Mans style ignition. I mean, it's a Boxster, not a Porsche. It does all the Porsche things. Great sound, great handling, and some of the weird aesthetics. And ultimate convertible, best convertible. One thing that this has, bar none, over the Miatas I've been in, I would even say some of the Corvette convertibles I've been in, Buddy's Gallardo, this car is comfortable. And a few weeks ago, Mr. Regular Car Reviews, he reviewed a 986 and kind of mentioned the fact this is kind of a luxury sports car, and I absolutely agree. A lot of times when I'm driving this car, I feel like I'm cheating, like I shouldn't be in something that's this sporty, it's just a balance between luxury, comfort, sportiness. When you want to drive aggressively, it does it all. Driving this thing around town or whatever, you know, it feels pretty good. And interestingly enough, going back to the attitude of folks with the Boxster and stuff like that, let's touch on that a little bit. So what I've found in my ownership is not Porsche owners that kind of poo-poo their nose at the Boxster. It's folks who know a little something about cars or whatever, and I guess got in their head that this isn't a real Porsche. Maybe the 2.5 liter 200 horsepower Boxster, which wasn't enough for them, but the part they're missing is, even without the big horsepower that you might see in a 911 turbo or whatever, is that the handling of this car is absolutely superb. In fact, as I'll show here, I mean, I use this car for track days and stuff like that, and I would be more than happy to have a 986 for the same thing, because in that case, track days I don't think are necessarily about going fast, but necessarily going around the track well, following the race line and being able to do that. And one of the things I learned quickly on my first track days with this car is that it's almost a cheater. I've never been on a track before, and I've never felt so comfortable as I did on this car. Like, driving around the course here, the Worldwide Technology Raceway here, felt great. And that's the allure of this car. It can be as civil as you want, just driving, doing around town things, grocery shopping, or whatever. But it can also go on the track, and that's amazing. And you get all this freedom with the convertible. Now, the Stigma, though, has an interesting side effect. So there's a significant price difference between a 987 Boxster and a 987 Cayman. And I find it interesting because I think they're both equally capable, especially in 987 form. Maybe you could argue that the 987 Cayman might be a little bit more rigid, just having a full top and everything like that. However, from a performance perspective, straight line, normal everyday driving is pretty much the same. And it's not as if you get additional storage in the Cayman, maybe a little bit because you have that, you have access to the trunk because it's a hatchback a little bit. Whereas here, you just have this rear shelf that's, you can't rest anything on because that's where the convertible top is. But I'm not sure I see why the need for the price difference, but take advantage of that. And that's where I come back to this being perfect. So when I was shopping for a Porsche, admittedly, I was looking for a Cayman. I had no interest in a Boxster only because I fell into the same trap about Boxsters and them being less than. But I found this one searching for Cayman, and I decided to give it a try. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is just like the Cayman. It feels great. And the price for it was great. And that's, so let me circle back. So where I was going with that is, same time I was looking at Miatas and other similar cars with similar price point. And this, when I bought it, was the same cost as a brand new ND Miata, which at the time in 2016, 2017 time frame had just came out. And I thought to myself, well, you know, Miata is definitely a great car. I'm not knocking it, but I'm like, if you have an opportunity to have a Porsche, let's go for it. Now, of course, many of those comments say, well, the maintenance on here is way different on a Miata. Absolutely right. Like, the maintenance cost for this car is astronomical. However, it's not totally inaccessible for the people who can do service at their home by themselves. So I've done my own brake jobs. The oil change in this car is very, very easy. In fact, a lot of the stuff on here is accessible. Now, one thing I haven't done yet is I do need to do a belt change, and getting this thing in service mode is something I haven't tackled yet. But outside of that, the car has been pretty easy to maintain. If you go to the dealership, yes, you're going to pay a lot. But if you can do it yourself, the part's going to cost a little bit more, but I do think that the thrills you get from this and the overall extra usability, storage, and just the more luxurious feel of this car, I think is absolutely worth it. And of course, like I said, the price difference, especially for a 987 or a 986 between that and a newish Miata, I think this is for some, this is an excellent way to jump into the world of Porsche. I don't like to call it an entry-level Porsche, but it is. I mean, this is your easiest point of entry. It's either this or like an older base model Macan, which is also an excellent vehicle. But if you're looking for more of a sport car, you can't go wrong with this Boxster. This car has a terrible blind spot, so I'll raise the roof up. The cool thing of this car is up to about 40 miles per hour, you can close the roof, which we're doing now. Latch closed, and now we're inside. Now, rear view is fine, but this blind spot when you're trying to change lanes or whatever, and this car is before lane change assistance or any of those markers were there, it's sometimes a little challenging. I mean, I'm not gonna front. Like, there's been many times where, even when I'm parallel parking, where even in the middle of winter when I've driven it, when there's, you know, yeah, I drive this car not really year round, but sometimes I drive in the winter. But in those cold days with the heat on or whatever, I will put the top down just so I can have a clearer view when I'm backing up. Now, this car has parking sensors, which helps, but sometimes just making that little bit of that angle, you have nothing over there. So other reasons to get this car over other convertibles is the sound. The Porsche Flat 6, I mean, yes, it's not a Ferrari or a Lambo, ridiculous sounding, but I think it's one of the most harmonious sounding engines I've ever experienced. And I drive a lot with this car without the radio or anything playing, just listening to the engine. It's pretty cool. Now, going back to the N97 and this variable valve timing, you'll notice that once you get above 5, there's a distinct change. Not sure how much the mic picks it up with the noise. Now, this is not the quietest car with the top up, but I think anybody would assume that in a convertible you're going to get a little road noise. So quick recap. So I bought this Boxster in 2017. It was an '08, had 20,000 miles, and a little bit of a cautionary tale, a little bit of my experience. So I bought it, and I didn't do one thing. So if you're gonna buy a Porsche, any Porsche, really any car, get a pre-purchase inspection. It will save you a ton of headaches in the future. So with that said, engine failure, well, I shouldn't say engine failure. I had the cylinder wall scoring, as I mentioned before, that plagues a very small percentage of the M97 engines. It wasn't a pleasant experience going through it with, between the warranty company, I had Porsche, my local Porsche dealership, Porsche North America, huge mess. And it probably warrants a whole nother video because it's a long story. But anyways, after that, an '08 Porsche with a newish engine. So figured, why not? This is my forever car. That was a lot of money, and I really wanted the Porsche experience. As foolish as it sounds after having an experience like that, right? The Porsche experience, it might be overblown. People say, oh, you're the Porsche. But there's something about the car, how it feels when you drive. There's a visceral experience you get. Like, it just feels great. And I got a little taste of that when this engine thing happened, so I was really, really excited to jump back in it, so hence why I went for it. Now, why do I say this is perfect, even describing that? Because this was a 1 and however many thousand Porsche Boxsters experience that I had with this bad engine. And also, like I said earlier, the quality, the build quality, the engine noise, the just overall satisfaction, the convenience of it, the comfort, it has all of that combined. And I don't think there are any convertibles on the market right now that legitimately can compete with that. And in fact, not many sports cars either. You might start looking at your four-door sports compact cars, two-door compact cars, but in terms of your true sports car, I think this is the most useful out of all of them, ironically, because it's convertible. Now, for those of you watching that would be like, nuh-uh, this car or whatever is better, put it in the comment section. I'd like to hear I'd like to see the argument. I mean, I don't see much better. And then also, from a cost point of view, yes, I already talked about maintenance, but from a straight up, I'm gonna buy this car and I know how to work on cars a little bit perspective. I don't see how this is exceeded by, like, say, a newer ND Miata, a Toyota 86, all those things which are in the same price range as a 987.1 Boxster. From a fuel efficiency, yeah, they might beat it. This thing, at best, gets 25 miles to the gallon. Yes, it uses expensive oil, but that goes back to the maintenance thing, whatever. But overall, from a handling perspective and checking all the boxes, nah, this wins. All right, so those who've been watching me for a little while and know how I got so excited about thinking I was driving a 911 Carrera S and the 992 generation in a previous video. This is really an S. Here's the nameplate. It does have the white on black on white cluster. These are really the appropriate brakes. And then I've not seen the engine because I've not put this thing in service mode, but the VIN lines up. So this is really a 987 S. I'm sorry, I apologize to everybody where I messed up before. So as far as S's go, this one is real, and my apologies for not having my homework done correctly, but I was super excited. And you'll have to excuse me for that. You know, should have done a little bit more homework on that one. And actually, for real, I could have just looked up the VIN on Carfax to see what this thing really is. And now I'm aware of that. Any future reviews on Turos that I will do some double verifications for stuff, because little small details like how the exhaust looks and stuff like that, which also too, this does have the S exhaust. That should be picked up on, and I should do better. So my bad, guys. I will definitely do better in the future. Anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching a guy who's got some opinions on some stuff who might not deserve to have an opinion, but I do stand by what I'm saying here, and I'm really thankful for any of those who've watched, came all the way this far. And if you like this type of unsolicited opinion and my own thoughts on cars that we see all the time, please like, subscribe, tell your friends. We're still growing, and I hope to be able to bring more content on the cars that people can afford. Maybe more of a secondhand luxury type of deal. Anyways, y'all, peace out. Catch y'all later.